Okay, welcome back. We have just created our base weapon blueprint, and it's got the skeletal mesh for Bellica guns, which is the Bellica skeleton with all the materials set to transparent except for the gun. In this video, we're going to create a widget component to add to this so that we can see a pop-up that shows us the name of the weapon and other associated information when we look at the weapon. So we're going to add a variable to the item class. So here in item.h, in the private section, we're going to add a new variable and we're going to forward declare it, and it's going to be of the type uWidget component. It's a pointer and we're going to call this pickup widget. This will be the widget that pops up for items that we can pick up. We'll go ahead and give this a uProperty macro. And I'd like this to be edit anywhere. Blueprint read only. And we'll stick it in the category item properties and give it the same meta specifier. Now for the comment, we'll say pop-up widget for when the player looks at the item. Let's go ahead and compile this. Now we're going to be using some utilities from Unreal Engine's UMG module. That contains all sorts of code used for Unreal Engine UMG, which is what we use to make widget and HUD elements for Unreal Engine. Now, in order to include those modules so we have access to that code easily, we're going to go into our build.cs file. So over here in the Solution Explorer, you'll see this C# file called shooter.build.cs. Click on that, and we'll see shooter.build.cs here. Now it has something called public dependency module names, and this is where we specify which module names to include here. This is where we're going to specify to include the UMG module. So we're going to add an element to this comma separated list. So add a comma, and in double quotes, add UMG, all caps. So with that added, we can go ahead and compile this. Okay, we've compiled. We can close shooter.build.cs. We're finished with that. Now we can create a widget blueprint for our pop-up. Now we're going to go ahead and put this in the HUD folder. So here in the HUD folder, right-click, and in User Interface, we'll select Widget Blueprint. We'll call this Pickup Widget BP. Double-click to open Pickup Widget BP, and this is a widget blueprint. Now, if you're not familiar with creating widgets in Unreal Engine, we're using UMG, which stands for Unreal Motion Graphics. That's all this stuff here. It's a bunch of tools that we can use to make HUD stuff. And if you didn't know what HUD stood for, that's heads-up display. And that's really anything you show on the screen, from text to progress bars to you name it. So a little pop-up window showing information about an item qualifies. So we're going to create our pop-up window. Now by default you'll see that this widget blueprint has a graph here, and this rectangle represents the screen. You'll see up at the top right it says fill screen. And over here in the hierarchy are all the elements that make up this widget. The canvas panel allows us to have a big screen and drag items onto it. But we don't need the canvas panel, so I'm going to go ahead and select that and delete it. Now we just have the screen. Now we don't want something that fills the screen. We just want a small little window that we can pop up on the screen. So up here where it says fill screen, we can change this to custom. And now if we zoom in, we'll see that it's now just a little box, and we can scale this up. And as we click on the arrows to scale it, it's showing us various dimensions here. And these are pixel sizes. So we're going to make something roughly about this size. As I'm adjusting it, you can see up here my coordinates in screen space. If I go up to the top left corner, it's about 0, 0. As I'm moving down, you'll see that second number is going up. It increases when we go down. And if I go to the right, that first coordinate is increasing up to about 550 or so. And so down here at the bottom right corner, you'll see that this rectangle is 550 by 261 approximately. Now, of course, we can adjust this as we need to. Now, I'm going to want to be able to stack things on top of each other on this widget. And in order to put multiple things one on top of the other, I'm going to need an overlay. So here in the palette, I'm going to search for overlay, and I'm going to drag this either onto the widget or onto the hierarchy. Either one works. So if I drag it on the widget, it'll show up on the hierarchy here. And you'll see that the overlay stretches to fill the rectangular shape. If we change it, the overlay adjusts accordingly. Now I'd like to have something here for the background of the widget, and I can use an image by finding image here in the palette and dragging it on top. Now I'm going to drag it on top of the overlay, and you'll see that it's indented slightly, and the overlay now has a drop down, and that shows us that the image is attached to the overlay. It's a child of the overlay. Now I'm going to click on this again to rename it and call this background image. And this is the background of our widget. Now notice it's just a tiny little box at the top left, and by default it's just a white image. It's just a blank image. With background image selected, I can choose the alignment here, and the two icons at the right say horizontally align fill and vertically align fill. Clicking on horizontally align fill makes the image stretch out horizontally to fill the entire overlay. Clicking on the vertically align fill does the same thing in the vertical direction. So now we have this blank image filling our overlay. Now we can adjust the color and opacity of the image. If I go down to appearance and color and opacity, I can adjust red, green, blue, and alpha values here, or I can click the bar and get a color picker. Now, if you haven't used a color picker, you can click anywhere in here to choose a color, but you also have a saturation bar and a value bar. Dragging the value bar makes it darker. And I'm going to drag all the way down to black. And for the alpha, which basically determines how see-through this color will be, I'm going to click here and choose a value of 0.5. And that will give this a sort of shade effect that you can see through, but it's pretty dark. Click OK, and now our widget looks like a gray, slightly transparent rectangle. Okay, now I want to be able to have multiple elements in here separated into their own little boxes. To do that, I can use a horizontal box. A horizontal box allows me to have multiple items and they're lined up horizontally. Drag the horizontal box onto the overlay, and it will also be a child of overlay just like background image. Select the box, and we can set vertical and horizontal alignment to fill, and it will fill this widget. Now a box doesn't look like anything. It's just used to organize items inside of it. It doesn't have any visual component to it. Now the box can have padding. These are margin values, and if you click the drop down, you can have left, top, right, or bottom, or if you just put a value here where it says padding, it'll give you that value for all four of these. I'm going to set the top and bottom to values of 5, and we'll see if you zoom in that there's a tiny little padding amount for the box. Now since this is a pretty big box, it's 600 by almost 300, I'm going to scale it down a bit to about, say, this size. Now we have a horizontal box. What I'm going to put in here from left to right are some vertical boxes. So I'm going to take the vertical box and drag it onto the horizontal box. I'm going to drag another one onto the horizontal box. So now the horizontal box has two vertical box children. Now I'm going to name these left box and right box. Now, if I select the left box, you'll see that there's a size property. And it says how much space this slot should occupy in the direction of the panel. Now, if we click fill, you'll have the option to put a value here. And you'll see that the box has expanded to the size of the horizontal box parent. Click right box and also click fill, and you'll see that both the left and right boxes are filling as much space as they can. But we can choose to give the size a value if we want to specify how much it should fill. For example, if we want the left box to fill 25% of the horizontal box and the right box to fill 75%, we can select left box and give its size a value of 0.25, and we can select right box and give its size a value of 0.75. And now, in the horizontal direction, left box is filling 25%. Okay, now as I'm working, I'm going to continue to scale this so that it looks more and more the way I want it to look. So here's an example of what I want the pop-up to look like roughly. I want this left side to be broken into two individual parts where I can have an icon and some text. And I want the right side to be broken into two individual parts with the name and some other stuff underneath. So I want two more boxes here. Remember, this left box is a vertical box, so I can stack things vertically. I'm going to put two more vertical boxes on the left box. And make sure you drag it onto the left box. It can be easy to make these a child of the wrong parent in the hierarchy. Let's name the first one left top box. Let's name the next one left bottom box. Now we'll set the left top box to fill, and I'll give it a value of 0.7. And I'll set the left bottom box to fill and give it a value of 0.3. I want to be able to put an icon here that looks like a key, or at least a symbol that tells me which key to press. And here will be some sort of text that tells me to press that key. Okay, now I'm going to readjust this as I go to make sure it's looking the way I want it to look. Now in the left top box, I want to be able to stack things on top of each other. What I want to stack is a canvas panel and an image. Now the reason I want a canvas panel is because a canvas panel will allow me to stick an image here and position it where I want it in this box. Otherwise I'd have to make the image fill the box. So in the left top box, select overlay and drag it on top of left top box. Now select fill to make sure it's filling this left top box. Now we're going to put a canvas panel on the overlay, and the canvas panel we're going to set to horizontally align fill and vertically align fill. And finally, on the overlay along with the canvas panel, we can add an image. So we'll put an image on this overlay. And for this image, I'm going to rename it and call it circle icon. Now we need an icon image for this. So back in our content browser, in game, in the assets folder, we'll go into the textures folder, and we'll create a new folder in textures, and we'll call this icons. In icons, we're going to import an image. Now, if you haven't already, you need to go to the GitHub page for DruidMech, that's my GitHub, and find UE4 CPP Shooter Series. Here you can download textures.zip. You can simply click on it and click download. Once you've extracted it, then you'll have your textures. So do that, and now we can import those textures. So click Add Import and select Import Asset. And in the Textures folder, we have an Icons folder, and in Icons, we have Button Icons. Select Icon Circle Outline 2.png and click Open. And now we have the icon. Double-click the image, and for the compression settings, select User Interface 2D, and save, and close. Now here in the widget editor, we're going to select the circle icon, open the dropdown, and for image, we'll select the image here. And we'll select icon circle outlined to, and we'll get our image here. Now with circle icon selected, we can choose horizontal and vertical alignment to align to the center. And we can give this some padding so it's not so big by taking our padding value and adding something like 20 to it. If that's too much, you can use a smaller value like 15. Now we can adjust the size of our circle icon by scrolling down in the details panel to render transform. And for our scale, we can scale this down a bit. Let's do about 0.65 for X and 0.65 for Y. And now it won't be so big. And we can still rescale our widget. As long as we're not squishing it, it'll still keep its dimensions. Now we'd like to have some text here to tell us which button to press. So in the palette, scroll down to find text, and we'll add this onto the overlay. That allows us to put it on top of everything else. Now we'll call this icon text. Now with icon text selected, we can scroll up to the content portion where it says text, and we can give it the text we want. I'm going to use the letter E uppercase. And I can scroll down for font and open that, and here we can select the font. Now we only have a single font, and that's Roboto. We can also select typeface and make it light or regular, and we can adjust the size so it's not as big. So let's put this size down to about 18, and I'll scroll back up and I'll set the horizontal and vertical alignment to center. Now going back down to font, if I click the drop down in font next to outline settings and select outline size and give it a value, say 1, now you'll see that our text has an outline. You can even change the outline material and the outline color if you wish. I'm going to leave it as is because I like how this looks. Now to add text to this box, the left bottom box, we'll take a text and we'll add it on to left bottom box. And I'm going to click and rename this and call it icon label text. I'm going to scroll up to the text property and I'm going to set the text to pick up. I'll set the horizontal and vertical alignment to center, and I'll adjust the font. I'd like the typeface to be regular, the size to be 12, and I'm going to give this outline size 1, and I'll leave the outline color black. Now notice it's not centering vertically, but we can select fill in the details panel, and now it should remain in the center horizontally and vertically. Okay, in the hierarchy, let's close the drop down next to left bottom box and close the drop down next to left top box so they're not cluttering our hierarchy window. This will conclude our video where we started making our pickup widget. In the next video, we're going to continue working on this right side here that we called right box, and we're going to add some text for the item name as well as some more areas for other information. We'll see you in the next video.